Well, good morning, everyone, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is called Social Media in 2016. So for those of you who are tuned into the webinar, we always start with the housekeeping item, making sure that you can see my screen, that you can hear my voice okay. You should be able to see the screen that says Social Media in 2016. You should be able to hear my voice okay. If you can, I'd really appreciate on the right-hand side you have a question box. If you could type the number 1, if you could say, Wade, I can hear you, whatever it takes. Hey from Weyburn, Saskatchewan. Hey Linda, thanks so much for the message. I'm going to assume that people can hear me. Really appreciate that message. Thanks, Kendra. I got your message as well. Perfect. Well, I am really excited about today's webinar because it's the start of our 2016 series of social media webinars. So I put on social media webinars about once every month, and then in the off weeks we have technology webinars as well. You can find the schedule for all of those at the Region Update website, the blog, that's remax-western.ca/blog. And I always try to share about different topics or give all of you some sort of value that you can use for your businesses. So be sure to check out that region update for future webinars as well as recorded webinar videos. So every time we do one of these, we always try to record it. So if you can't make that 9 a.m. Pacific start time, you can still check out the recording later on. Today's webinar is probably geared toward the slightly more social savvy realtor. Therefore, if you're brand new to social media, please make sure to check out the region update because I have put together some webinars in the past that are much more focused on the basics of social media. Since one of my beliefs is that 2016 is going to see the rise of live social media broadcasting, I did a scope a few minutes ago promoting this webinar through the newish social media network called Periscope. And how can you check out future scopes, or how can you scope yourself? Well, it's fairly simple. For those of you who have the Periscope app downloaded on your phone, you can get it from the App Store, or if you're on an Android, you can download it there. Just make sure you're following at Remax Western Can, or if you're on Twitter, you can check out our at Remax Western Can Twitter account. And when we scope, we also send out tweets with the live broadcast link that anyone can watch. Here's the thing, I used to Periscope my entire webinar, but Periscope is really best used when you can interact. And when I put on these webinars, my focus really shifts to all of you, to the computer version of what I'm talking about. And I hate ignoring people on social media. I don't think it's a good practice. So I moved away from recording the whole webinar on Periscope. So now we just do the intro there and record it here on the computer. And a final item to mention before we get started is that today we're using the Remax Social hashtag. So that's hashtag Remax, all caps social. So if there's anything you find valuable in today's webinar, or if you want to send out a tweet letting others know that you've tuned into this webinar, it'd be much appreciated. We can get a conversation going using that hashtag. And of course, you can always ask questions using that hashtag as well. And later on, I'm going to go check those out and get answers to you. But a big thank you for everyone for taking time out of your busy day to tune in today. So for those of you who haven't seen one of my webinars or recorded videos in the past, my name is Wade Patterson. I'm the Social Media and Communications Coordinator with Remax of Western Canada. And if you ever have questions with anything related to social media, anything related to communications, please feel free to reach out to me. You can get me by email, wpatterson@remax.net. You can contact me at our head office here in Kelowna as well. That number is 1-800-563-3622. Or if you're on Twitter, my personal Twitter handle is @PattersonWade. We have a few things to talk about today, looking at social media in 2016. First, we're going to explore what's the same. So just because there's a new wave of social media, some new apps, some bright shiny objects that sometimes have us excited, it doesn't mean we should abandon ship on some of the more traditional forms of social media. I feel weird just saying that, traditional forms of social media, but when you really think about it, networks such as Facebook have been around for literally over a decade now, so I guess that's what we call them, traditional forms of social media. But there are some things that you still want to do no matter how advanced social media becomes. Next, this webinar is going to aim to show you what's changing in social media. So as your social media and communications coordinator, I do my best to keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening, and sometimes new networks end up flopping and being far less important than many anticipated they might be. But other times, seemingly before we know it, social media apps have hundreds of millions of monthly active users, and all of a sudden we feel like we're late to the party and we're trying to catch up. Well, I'm not foolish enough to pretend I know for certain which way social media will go, but I will give you some of my opinions and point out a few suggestions that experts are making about how other social media networks are beginning to gain traction and a few of the benefits they may offer for those who check them out. Last, I'm going to give you one suggestion of something that we really need to stop doing on social media, and that's related to Facebook. And finally, a suggestion of one thing you might really want to start doing this year. And that last tip of what you want to start doing is focused on Instagram. So all Instagram users, that's going to be a really helpful tip for you. Before we get started though, I want to add one important note. We're going to talk about a few different social media networks today and how having a presence on these networks may benefit your business. But what I don't want to do is stress any of you out or make you think that you have to be on any of these social media networks. I want you to be honest with yourself and how much time you're willing to dedicate to social media, because I strongly believe that if you're going to add a social media account, you need to be willing to monitor it and contribute content to that platform from time to time. Sometimes we're tempted to get on every single social media platform out there because we see others doing that. But the problem is, if we leave abandoned accounts out there, it can truly do us more harm than good. But if you're already fairly confident with social media and you're wanting to branch out and try new things, hopefully today's webinar gives you a couple ideas, a little inspiration of how you can do that. So I see one question that came in, which Periscope app? Yes, it is the Twitter Periscope app. It's the one that's related to Twitter, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that coming up right away here. Thanks so much for the question. Feel free to throw questions at me throughout this webinar. If I can, I will get to it. If not, at the end, I promise I will get to all of your questions. So, all right, let's dive into the what's the same with social media. And one thing that certainly hasn't changed, regardless of what social media network you're on, is the importance of having a profile set up and set up well. Why does a good profile matter? Well, a profile is your first opportunity to introduce yourself when someone comes across your social media account online. So perhaps this mystery person noticed a mutual friend liked your photo, or they saw your witty comment on Instagram. The profile is often the next place they'll go to find out more about you. In the picture on this screen, you'll see an example of a Twitter profile that really hasn't been set up properly. One of the reasons this is really bad is because we know that social media accounts often rank quite high in Google searches. So if a consumer is trying to find information about you or your business and they come across a profile like this, that really doesn't look good. They might question if you're even still in business. They might assume you're lazy, perhaps you're not up to date on technology. All of these assumptions are bad ones, and we want to make sure that we're avoiding things like this. So instead, make sure your profile looks more like this than the previous screen. Jeremy Gucce was a speaker at Activate last fall, our annual fall conference. He's the CEO of Trend Hunter, and his Twitter profile is a really good example of one that has been set up properly. His cover photo shows himself and his business in an interesting way. His profile photo is a shot of his face, and he's filled out his Twitter bio along with a website that people can reach him at. These are Twitter examples. However, the same is true for your Facebook page, your LinkedIn account, your Instagram profile, or really any social media network that allows you to have a profile. A powerful profile with strong images can really enhance your social media presence online. All right, pop quiz. What do the following have in common? A Facebook message to your inbox in 2007, a tweet that mentioned you in 2010, a comment with a question under your Instagram photo in 2014, or a real-time question asked to you during your live Periscope broadcast in 2016. The answer is these are all examples of things that you need to acknowledge. So people are increasingly connecting, they're asking questions, they're finding out information about us through social media. One of the reasons I shared the important note earlier in the webinar is that if you bite off more than you can chew within social media and you're not able to keep up to date on your accounts on a somewhat regular basis, customers won't appreciate when it appears as though you're ignoring them on social media. So Facebook's a great example of how they're making your reaction time more visible. Facebook will reward your business page with a very responsive to messages badge the more you respond quickly and consistently to private messages. So it's this little badge, you might have seen it on some business pages, and if they're very, very effective, they will get the badge that says this business is very responsive to messages. But guess what the guidelines are as of right now? Within the last 7 days, you need a response rate of 90% and a median response time of 5 minutes. Seems a little crazy, right? But that's the way things are moving. And I'm not saying you need to have that badge on your Facebook business page. I'm not saying that you need to respond to every social media question or request that quickly. But what I am saying is that you can't leave it for a few days. It looks bad. People are using social media, all forms of social media, to reach out to us. And so if we have a presence on social media, we need to make sure we're aware of those messages coming our way. The last item for what's the same this year with social media, and that is interesting content is always going to be incredibly important on social media. I've been asked a few times whether or not I think listings belong on social media, and I've always been hesitant to give a definitive answer. However, I do have an opinion regarding those social media accounts that only post listings. So let me explain with a quick example. Let's say I want to buy a house and I've liked your business page on Facebook. In that moment in time, I probably want to see every single listing you're posting to social media. I'm incredibly interested in that content because that's where my head is at as a consumer. But here's the thing, as soon as I buy a house and I move in and I get settled, it might be 5, it might be 10 years before I'm ever in that mindset again. But the following week, I log back into Facebook and I see that you're still posting listing after listing. It's not going to take very long before I disconnect with you because what you're posting is no longer interesting. It's no longer relevant to me. So if you're going to be posting listings on social media, I strongly suggest taking the 80-20 rule into account, which means 80% of your content should be interesting stuff, which is relevant to anyone, whether or not they're buying or selling real estate at that moment in time, and 20% focused on listings. 20% or less, if you can, is ideal. And as for that 80% of content, there are really a lot of opportunities of what you can post. Some of the best examples, you could shoot video talking about how your local market is doing. I've seen several agents getting more and more involved with video, and I can say as a user, as a consumer, every time I see an agent posting a video, I almost always click and watch it. It gets my attention in ways that text can't. And for any of you who are interested, I'm gonna add a little plug right here. Any of you who are interested in learning more about video, I'm going to highly encourage you check out a Facebook group. So write this down. If you're interested in learning more about video, this Facebook group is called Remax Play. Remax Play. And the reason I want you to write it down, the reason I want you to take it into account, because this is a group that was actually started by a Remax agent, Michael Thorne, and it has over 1,000 members now. All of the members are Remax agents throughout Canada, USA, and it is such a helpful, it's one of the best Facebook groups I've seen. People will post videos asking for suggestions. People will post tutorials through that Facebook group. Everyone is there to support each other and really make everyone better at video. So if video is something you're interested in, check out that group for sure. And on the topic of interesting content, I'd also suggest when it comes to photos, use interesting photos that tell a story behind the home buying process or showcase a really unique or interesting feature on a home. You can also talk about your community. I'm always amazed with how much sales associates know about the communities they live in. You start a conversation with them, they know if there's a local event coming up, a local parade, everything like that. Start sharing that information on social media. Be the expert in your community. These are examples of ways you can fill that 80%, and that's interesting content whether or not someone wants to buy a house at that moment in time. All right, now let's move into what's changing. What's changing with social media in 2016? Well, Facebook and Twitter recently announced changes to their newsfeed and timeline. And these early 2016 changes may set the tone for how posts and tweets are delivered to users. So Facebook is now using qualitative data to determine what content appears in your newsfeed. In the past, they had used actions, just actions, so such as likes, comments, shares, and those determined newsfeed placement. But this change came about after Facebook launched a feed quality panel of more than 1,000 users, and they surveyed them on their everyday Facebook experience. And now they're using that survey data to understand what content you may want to see at the top of your feed, even if you don't take action on it. So there might be things you want to see even if you don't like it, even if you don't share it. And Facebook is now trying to put together an algorithm, or has put together an algorithm, that will deliver you content that you might more likely want to see. So now your newsfeed is updated based off of two signals. Number one is the probability you want to see the story, and number two is the probability you will like, comment, share, or click on the story. At the end of the day, this change still doesn't change the fact that as a business page, you need to post content that is useful and meaningful to your audience. This is still incredibly important for Facebook. So it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about as listings compared to interesting content. As for Twitter, last week Twitter officially announced a new timeline that places tweets you are most likely to care about and engage with at the top of your timeline. And this is all based on your historical Twitter activity. Additional tweets will appear directly underneath in reverse chronological order, just as they did before. So what this means for you? Well, Twitter released some new best practices, and they recommend tweeting 3 times per day to optimize organic reach of your followers. They also encourage you to keep your tweets short. So as if 140 characters wasn't already short enough, or 160, now tweets with less than 100 characters drive significantly higher engagement. Tweets with videos and photos also drive engagement up. And as always with Twitter, you want to identify relevant hashtags to drive discovery with new consumers. Very easy to do that. It shows you right on the side what's trending and opportunities. One that we do here at RE/MAX of Western Canada is something called Monday Motivation every week. It's always trending on Mondays. You use that hashtag and all of a sudden your little piece of motivation is going where a lot of eyeballs are. So it's a good way to find key hashtags and really become part of those conversations as well. All right, so the next what's changing in 2016. Over the last few months, people have really been jumping on the Snapchat bandwagon. So there was this huge hesitance over the past couple of years, perhaps because Snapchat had a bad reputation, or perhaps people couldn't understand how it could be useful. But now we're starting to see more and more marketers and even some agents who are starting to embrace Snapchat as a social media network. If you're wondering what Snapchat is for, or what you can actually do with it, what I've observed in the last few months is that Snapchat is a great way to give your audience behind the scenes content that you might not get through other social media channels. So just throwing out an example of a way you could use Snapchat, one example that comes to mind, people are always talking about what the value of a realtor is. I'm sure all of you are always trying to explain, to prove people all the little jobs. RE/MAX LLC just released a marketing campaign, The Sign of a RE/MAX Agent, which is really focused on all of the things you do as agents. But let's take Snapchat, for example. By snapping about your typical day, you may be able to give your audience just a sneak peek or a behind the scenes view of some of the aspects of your job that people don't realize that you're doing or take for granted. And of course, you don't want to be complaining or whining on Snapchat, but this might just be a great opportunity to show them some of those extra things, what your typical day is like. Here's my warning about Snapchat though. I've noticed from some people I've started following, that it's tough sometimes and the ego gets in there a little bit with Snapchat, because really Snapchat's all about us. We're taking quick videos or quick photos about our lives, and sometimes there's a temptation to make our lives seem really great or really interesting, and it almost comes across as bragging. And I don't think that Snapchat should be used for this. I think the best thing with any social media network, including Snapchat, is to still try to provide people value. So why would people want to follow you on Snapchat? Well, if you're able to give them behind the scenes, there's a new open house, something like that, and you're showing some really interesting features, Snapchat can be used to provide value that way. But if you're just going to talk about how great you are, how many houses you sell, all those types of things, to be honest, I don't think that's the best use of Snapchat. One other interesting thing I just want to quickly point out about Snapchat is that right now it's becoming harder and harder to get people's attention with social media, and that is a benefit I see about Snapchat. For those couple of seconds, people are locked in. If they're following you and they click on your snap or your story, they're connected with whatever you've posted. They can click to kind of fast forward through that snap, but ultimately you have their attention for a few seconds, and that is hard to get these days on social media. So that, I think, is another way some people are moving that way. And at some point it might be worth, I haven't done a full Snapchat webinar to this point. It's been one that agents have been just starting to get interested in, but in the future I might focus on that depending what the appetite for it is. But again, as I mentioned earlier, please don't feel that you have to download Snapchat just for the sake of having a presence there. If this is the type of social media network that fits with your personality, then by all means, utilize it. All right, the last thing I want to touch on for what's changing this year, what's changing in 2016, is that live broadcasting is growing. And although live broadcasting through social media is really in its infancy, I believe it's something that has staying power. So for those of you who have never heard about this form of social media, last year a couple of social media apps came out which focus on live broadcasting. So just like you can shoot video with your smartphone, you can do that through these apps, but instead of shooting a recorded video, you're literally live broadcasting that video that you're recording to your followers, or depending what your privacy settings are, potentially anyone in the world. You may have heard of some of these apps. I mentioned one earlier called Periscope. There's another called Meerkat. The cool thing about Periscope is that it works through your Twitter account. So anytime you want to start live broadcasting, it gives you the option to send out a tweet explaining what it is that you're about to start live broadcasting. So if you've already built up a decent Twitter following, and you automatically have an instant source of Periscope followers as well, since the two social media accounts are sort of synced together in a way. Another cool feature about Periscope is that there is a map view with a map of the whole world, which you can literally zoom in on, and you can see where anyone is live broadcasting in real time. And this is cool because often I'll check out Canada, and I'd say at any given time there are 3 to 5 people live broadcasting in Canada. Well, I don't know for sure, but I would think a year from now that number is going to go up fairly significantly. So if you think about it as an opportunity for all of you, this might be a chance to get in on the ground floor of this type of social media. How can you use something like Periscope to better your business? Well, I've seen some interesting examples of how agents have been using the social media app. I've seen live open houses, I've seen broadcasts from community events, and I've even seen Q&A sessions such as Ask a Realtor, which are really helpful, and you get some great questions and some great answers. Regardless, like any other social media platform, you want to strive to provide good, interesting content. That's key. You're going to hear me repeat that a few times this webinar. Content is always key. But the difference between Periscope and recorded video is that you're giving viewers a raw, truly behind the scenes video of whatever it is that you're doing. And I think the way social media is moving, people are going to continue to crave that sort of access more and more. One warning with any sort of live broadcasting is that Periscope allows others to comment on your broadcast. And sometimes, just by the nature of these sorts of apps, these sorts of networks, you get those people out there who are going to post negative things, they're going to post inappropriate comments. And since every single comment will show up, everyone can see every comment, I strongly suggest if you're using Periscope, adopting a one strike and you're out rule. So that means if someone posts something inappropriate or rude, feel free to block them. And you do that, you see the comment pop up, you can press right on the comment and an option to block that user will come up. And it seems harsh, but it's important that you set the tone when you're doing a live broadcast, that you're not going to accept rude comments, and it will also prevent your Periscope replay, because there's a 24-hour replay that happens afterward, from being ruined with negative or rude comments. And I know this is just a quick sneak peek at some Periscope stuff. Just so you know, I have done a Periscope webinar in the past. It is on the region update. It's under the recorded video section. So if you want to learn more about Periscope, go check it out there for sure. But while we're on the subject of live broadcasting, I believe there's some reason that this form of social media has legs and may continue to grow, and that is that Facebook has unveiled something called Facebook Live, which has the capabilities to live broadcast from a business page. And I have to double check on this, but I believe it's only been rolled out to some key users at this point, but the plan is to eventually roll this out to perhaps not only business pages, but every user in general. And the reason this is powerful is that now businesses can get more personal and get more connected with their audiences. And the fact that Facebook has rolled this out means that many of us have already created an existing Facebook presence. We already have people who have liked our business page. So you already have an audience in place. You don't have to do all that legwork of building an audience through Periscope. You might already have that audience. And finally, when Facebook gets behind something, usually that's a good indication that it's a feature that has a good chance of taking off. So if the thought of live broadcasting is overwhelming and scary, I don't want to put you off. I don't want to scare you. It's not something every agent has to do, but I think it's an interesting opportunity to take advantage of, especially if you're fairly savvy with social media and you're looking to check out what is new, how you can make a difference, how you can be unique through social media. And the great thing about live broadcasting is that it is still very early days. So by trying out something like this, you're kind of one of the early adopters. You're no longer that person who's trying to catch up to everyone else. You're kind of one of the pioneers. So that's always an exciting time. All right, so now I'm going to get into the two tips. The tip of what we need to stop doing, and then the tip for Instagram specifically, what I would suggest. Have you seen a post like this before? Like my Facebook business page and you could win a $25 Amazon gift card, or perhaps you could win a Lotto Max ticket, or you could win a bottle of wine. Posts such as these might seem like a great way to quickly gain followers. However, there's a fundamental problem with them. Although you may grow your like count by giving people a chance to win something, the chances are the people who are adding you or liking you don't really care about your business. They care about winning whatever prize you're promising to give away. And why does that matter? Well, Facebook decides how many people see your content, as I was talking about before, through the algorithm, and it's all based on likes and comments. It really comes down to engagement with your posts. So even though you might have 1,000 people who have liked your business page, if 950 people did that because you were offering something, the chances are when you put out content, most of those 950 people who wanted to enter for the contest won't be interested in seeing whatever it is that you've posted, because they're not interested in your business. They were interested in winning something. And there's a low chance that they will engage with your posts. However, if your page only has 50 likes, because sometimes we get discouraged by having low likes, but if you have 50 likes and those are 50 likes of people who genuinely like your business and they want to see your content, there is a much greater chance that many more of those 50 people will see your content than the 50 buried in the 1,000 likes. Hopefully I explained that okay. But what I'm saying is that even though contests like this might seem great because they get you a high number of likes, just remember that it's not a genuine engaged audience of fans that you're growing. Instead, put the focus on putting out great, interesting content on a consistent basis. That way, your post will still be delivered to a decent sized audience, but they'll actually interact with your post. They'll actually want to see it. It's a more targeted audience. That's the best way to build your business page. And so again, this all comes down to that 80% posting content that's interesting to anyone, regardless if they're buying a home or not. And the last tip, and I apologize if you're not on Instagram, because this last tip of something to start doing is really focused on Instagram. I suggest you start getting help from Grama, not Grandma, Grama. And it's a cool app that's really, really helpful when it comes to hashtags. So after you download the app, it's very simple. You simply type in a word that is related to whatever it is you're posting about on Instagram. In the example here, it's travel, but perhaps you want to type in Vancouver real estate. Well, after that, this app called Grama will generate a list of all the possible hashtags that are related to whatever you've typed in. This really cuts down your time on hashtag research and can be quite helpful. So when you see the list of words on the right, you simply go and you just tap your screen on every single word that you want. You scroll to the bottom of that page, press copy hashtags, and then you go into Instagram and you can paste all of those hashtags at the end of your post. You could also use this for Twitter if you wanted, because it copies the hashtags, but remember on Twitter you only have the 140 characters to work with. The reason this is important is that research shows for Instagram, posts with 11 or more hashtags get the best engagement. And you've probably noticed posts that do really well, there's tons of hashtags afterwards. And for those of you who are not used to Instagram, I've done a webinar in the past, I believe it was the fall of last year, that focused on Instagram. You can find that on the region update. I'd encourage you to check it out, because here's the thing that's interesting about Instagram. A very high percentage of its users are between the ages of 25 and 35. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's 75% of users, and there's 300 million monthly active Instagram users. So if you're thinking about connecting with first-time home buyers, that's a pretty good social media network to do so. And the Instagram search function is highly used as well, which makes all of these hashtags very important. And one tip, I didn't plan on talking about this, but one thing I want to say very quickly is when you're filling out your Instagram profile, please make sure if you're doing real estate in Calgary or Edmonton, put that within the text of your profile, because right now, if I search within Instagram for Vancouver real estate, there are 40 businesses or people that show up. 40 in all of Vancouver. 10 of those are non-existent or locked accounts. There are only 30 that exist. If you are an agent who is on Instagram, really consider connecting, putting that text in your profile. You will come up when people search those things under people, and this is a great chance. I'm sure that number is going to grow by the end of 2016. This is a chance to really have a presence on Instagram search, which is a really smart move. And while we're on the topic of Instagram, another cool feature that literally came out last week is the ability to manage dual accounts under one login. So using myself as an example, I can now manage my own Instagram account as well as the Remax of Western Canada Instagram account without having to sign out and sign back in every single time. That's what you had to do in the past on Instagram. So for those of you who have your own personal Instagram account and perhaps a business Instagram account, this is a feature. I believe it's going to be rolled out very soon if it's not already available. So something that's a lot more convenient for all of you. So that's my Instagram tip for today. So thank you so much to everyone who took time to tune in today. I'm sorry I went a couple minutes over. We always try to keep these to about half an hour. But if there are any questions right now, feel free to fire them at me. I know today was a little more focused on some of the advanced networks and whatnot of social media. We try to give a range of webinars, some very more basic ones. I promise you, if you go to the region update, that website is remax-western.ca/blog. There are recorded videos there, things like Facebook for beginners, Twitter for beginners, everything, and then some medium skill-wise webinars with regard to social media as well. So there is a range in the levels. So I apologize if some of the stuff today was a little bit over your head, but I hope that some of you got value. And yeah, like I say, I'm going to stick around here for a couple minutes. Other than that, thank you all so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and enjoy your Wednesday.